Welcome back. This is Julie Baranek, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Bridget Long. Hey, Bridget.
Yes, hi Julie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. I want to hear all the things that you specialize in with women entrepreneurs and helping them grow their business. And can you tell us a little bit about what you do with your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 36, 37 years, and I've had multiple businesses throughout those 3.5 decades. For the past 14 years, I have specialized in online business, building across the world in the beauty technology arena. I am also a private business coach. And I have had experience in bricks and mortar businesses in high-end luxury fashion and hospitality, both in Paris for over 20 years. And so I'm familiar with all kinds of business models, whether that be online or offline, local or global. And that experience has given me quite a wide sort of basis of knowledge of different kinds of things that we come across as not just women, but mothers, daughters, siblings, and so on, and how to really sort of flow through life as best as possible, achieving what we want to achieve, but still actually having a modicum of balance. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. And just diving right in, what are the biggest gaps that you see that women face as they're trying to juggle it all and trying to grow their business? Like, what is it that you see?
Well, Julia, I've trained and mentored thousands of women, particularly in the last 14 years, both individually and collectively. And there are some quite startling common denominators that run all the way through. I think that it is critically important and very obvious that oftentimes we get lost about having absolute clarity on what we want to achieve and why. So my first task when I start training somebody is to get very clear on what is it what do I want most and why. And sometimes even that is a bit of a stretch. So we go back even further and we say, okay, so make a list of the things you definitely do not want. Because oftentimes that's easier than writing a list of things that I want. But that exercise, I think, is probably one of the most defining things that I can do with people, because once they write down a list of things they don't want, they get very clear on what they do want. Because that's going to be the polar opposite of what they don't want, basically. And I think that what women want is to be able to be there for their families, but still have financial independence. They want to make an impact. They want to be able to not just be cooperative components for the financial help of their families, but to add the specials and the extras. That's something that they really want to be able to do. I think the baseline of basic food, shelter, paying the bills is kind of like guaranteed, but it really is about those extra dancing lessons, a 2-week family holiday, all paid for by her, and of course, ultimately, as they start to grow in their income, what they realize is that the journey is really about what creating that income makes of you as a person. So self-esteem, self-confidence, certain you develop qualities and skills, being really, really good with compartmentalization, with different levels of focus, being able to collaborate with potentially other women as well, learning from one another. Women are very good with that. We co-create really well. We're very imaginative and, as I say, creative. So those kind of things start to emerge as the journey goes on, but it just depends really where everyone is in their journey. Some people are starting, they're right at the beginning. Others will be maybe a couple of years in. They've already developed a certain level of skills, but now they really want to level up. But as a general, those are the things I think, getting really, really clear what you want and why you want it and what that looks like. And also then learning how to work efficiently in segments of time allocated to the business. And when you get to that segment of time, what do I do in that segment of time?
Absolutely.
So the planning needs to be, pretty well organized, and I think that's one of the challenges of that women. But isn't it? I always say it's not rocket science. It is just kind of disciplines and habits, and over time, it's like building a muscle. The more we do it, the better we get at it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, I mean, that foundational work is core to everything that we do, right? Like if we're not
Yes.
sure what that is, we tend to wander and not really know why we're doing what we're doing or what direction we're actually heading, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is really the basis of everything, because there's a great quote, and I can't remember who said it now, but it was, if the why is strong enough, you could, the how just becomes apparent. You'll always figure it out.
Mhm.
One of my favorite quotes by Marie Forleo actually is, everything is figure outable,
Mhm.
and I can handle that. And actually I am smart, and I do have a brilliant brain, and I can tap into this, not even just women that collaborate, but today we have access to so much information, in fact all the information we need. And so we're in an era now where, as women, we can really evolve and grow into something much more collaborative and more impactful, because we have that freedom and that access to information. So that's really that's a really interesting way that we're seeing women entrepreneurship evolve. And I think that the numbers show, that the percentages of women actually running their own businesses now is growing exponentially, and that's an amazing thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm curious what you find. You mentioned about the community and being collaborative and all of that, but do you
Yes.
find that women have an easy time of building that community, or do you find they're awfully lonely on that journey, or does it depend on the stage where they are in their business?
Well, one of the things that I also find actually is great, that's a really good question, is that often women forget they can ask for help, and it's okay to do so. And for example, I'm working with one of the ladies I'm working with at the moment. She is a very experienced therapist. Up until now, she's only done kind of like one-to-one therapy, and she's
Mhm.
fully booked all the time and all the rest of it. She wants to evolve. And so we're looking at, she's sort of written an ebook, and she wants to write a course and everything. And so this is a huge technological growth curve for her, because she is not comfortable with this at all. But I have to admire her, 'cause she's really embraced it nonetheless. And so we're looking to create an audible version of her ebook. And I said, there are people that you can help, starting probably with your adult children, who will be able to be a huge help to learning about the tech side. She said, oh my God, I never thought of that before. And I was just like, there they are. It's free and they know stuff, right?
Right?
So definitely asking for help is absolutely huge. And not feeling that if you do ask for help that you're not good enough in some way. It's just really like anything, you want to level up in your skill set, and there's plenty of people around you. And you know what? When somebody comes to me for help, I just love helping them. I mean, a lot of the time I'll just do it for free. I said, okay, come and sit down for half an hour. I'll unpack a few things for you, so you can walk away with an improved toolbox of what you need to do tomorrow morning to get, to move your business forward. And that was really, I think, often what stops them, is it just like, oh, if I'm going to look as if I'm not good enough, or I don't do enough, or whatever it is. But once they realize that actually asking for help is a sign of strength, then it becomes easier, and things move really fast. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you see that mindset plays in with all of this? Like, are there certain blockers that people come into, or what do you find there?
Well, for me, mindset, I mean, it's everything, right? Because that's how we create. The mindset is at the origin of everything that we create or that we don't create, how we respond, how we don't respond, and everything. So again, when I'm training people, I mean, for the most part, I do train women, but I actually have trained some men as well. And I'm always going to start at the root. So the first thing I have like sort of like quite an extensive questionnaire that I send them before we actually start our sessions together, which I do like a 90-day peak performance program. I say, okay, well, I need to know a bit of background here now. So my first question is, after they've actually given me what I call their freedom number, right, which is a monthly or a yearly income, not revenue, of what they want to be able to bring into their homes and their families and their bank accounts, basically. I said, okay, so tell me about your mother and father and what they earned. And 99 times out of 100, you take the two salaries, put them together, divide in two, and that's what that person will be earning.
Mhm.
So, and I read once, and I wish I had looked at the source, but I know it was a very reliable source, that 90% of women never make more money than their fathers. So there's a thing going on with women and money, right? So I will get to that money mindset first and foremost. That is the biggest foundation stone, because I am there to say, okay, this is where you are right now, and that's absolutely fine. You have skill, you have experience, you have purpose, you're driven, you know, you're hardworking, and you want, and it's not just about wishing for change, it's being willing to change. That's really, you know, it's a kind of a subtle difference, but really colossal. So how are we going to get you from where you are now to where you want to be? Let's find out a little bit about your blueprint, where your financial thermostat is, and see how then we're going to, through incremental habits and new daily changes, you're going to be able to grow out of that into something that brings you more, you know, financial, first of all, security, and then financial freedom for yourself and your family. So mindset is everything. And then it's in the daily habits. We say it's like showering. We recommend it daily.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you have to check inside as to where you are with your mindset at different points in
All the
time.
time, all the
Yeah.
time. And you know, I have read and studied thousands of books. I've done immersion trainings with multi-millionaires all over the world. Again, both individually and collectively. And again, that gives you, you know, a huge grounding to understanding the prerequisites of the kind of mindset habits that you need to have in order to take that income and make it 5 times, 10 times, or 20 times bigger. And it is actually that where we trip up, Julie, actually, is that a lot of the time that we have these limiting beliefs, but we're not conscious of them. And so we don't know. I always say to people, look, you know, that little limbic brain that you've got going on, that's your microchip. It was very well installed before the age of 7. Most people will live out that programming for the rest of their lives. But first of all, congratulate yourself, because you've decided you don't want to live out that programming. Now we've got to start doing some work.
Have to reprogram that microchip.
Yeah, that damn microchip, right? If only we could just like zap it, you know, sort of go in for a complete cellular cleansing. But anyway, and of course, you know, it's got to be fun. The journey has to be fun. You've got to be able to take it seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously, you know. And I sometimes, you know, well, somebody comes to me and they're upset about this, that, and the other. I says, listen, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to take away, you know, distract ourselves from all this stuff, or try and make this stuff look a little bit more less dramatic, because ultimately none of us are getting out of here alive, and so we might as well enjoy ourselves while we're here.
So true.
So when we do that, people learn well through fun. And I love to use humor in my coaching, you know, and we will sit down and laugh about it, because the messages go in so much more easily when it's done with a joke or you know, something like that. So that's something that I really love to use in terms of mindset, personal development, personal growth, understanding those conscious programming. And when something comes up, which it will, I was like, don't worry. Stored with pain, it's going to come up with pain. I'll say to them, you know, you've got some ways of handling that. First of all, you can just say literally, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that I actually believe that?
Yeah.
When clearly it's not true. And so we can de-dramatize. I think that's really what I'm trying to say here. You know, we've got to de-dramatize these. Everybody gets so intense about limiting beliefs and blah 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 blah. It's like, for goodness sake, we've all got them. We've all got them. Even the richest, most successful person in the world has got limiting beliefs, right? Because we know we only use a tiny percentage of our brain. I think 10% at best. And I say to people, wouldn't it be amazing if we used 11%?
Right.
Yeah, let's not just go for 100. I mean, my God, we'd be walking on water, right? But literally, why don't we just go for an extra percent? I see where that gets us, and then we'll go for maybe an extra 0.1% and see where that gets up. And then ultimately, it's about seeing how far we can go. I mean, that there's we're never going to get it done. Oh, we're never going to get it to a point where we don't need to grow anymore. We don't want to do anymore. We don't want to make any more impact or anything. So just like, let's see how far we can go with this and have fun with it. And so when we understand that programming, that's the first thing I do. And I say, well, the good news is it's only temporary. And now we're going to put a program in place. So every morning when you wake up, you have a program, not just in terms of the actionable steps you're going to take for your business, which will bring in new leads and generate new income, but also a personal development program as well. And that needs to be tracked and you have to be accountable. And I think they're probably the two most important things is tracking your day and being accountable at the end of every evening. And that is a huge, huge thing. And when I do my program with people, I say to them, all right, so this is the deal. You've got to send me a message every single night to tell me what you've done, positive aspects of the day, things you're grateful for, and then the actionable steps you're going to put in place tomorrow.
I love that.
7 days a week for 90 days, because that gets them into a trajectory of habits, which they can then carry on. And then, they find a buddy or something like that, and they just carry on. And also, probably the most important thing is I do what I teach. I'm not somebody, do what I do and, just do what I say and instead of do what I do. So I have an accountability partner myself. The one that we've been working with, the lady I've been working with at the moment, we're on day, I think 252 or something like that.
I love that.
Haven't missed a day for 252 days.
Wow.
Yeah, even Christmas Day, we'll send a message to it. Even if we haven't done much necessarily on a particular day, doesn't matter, we still check in. And those daily habits are incredibly, incredibly important. Small things, and I think that sometimes we overlook the small things as thinking they're not important. But when they're done consistently, they're much more important than doing big things inconsistently. That's who we are. We're made up of those little small incremental daily habits that we do every single day. So when I work with someone, I will unpack it really like quite meticulously, and we'll pull out the weeds. It's like, oh no, that doesn't work.
Don't need that anymore.
What do you mean for the first hour of the morning? You get up, you make a cup of tea, turn your phone on and start scrolling. I was like, whoop, you're not doing that anymore. Like, right, who changes it? And it's amazing how people embrace these changes. And in the beginning it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's like, well, I can't look at my phone till 9 a.m. Nope. I don't know if I can do that. It kind of like the anxiety comes or 8 a.m. or whatever. And then little by little, after a few weeks, they'll be like, oh my God, I am loving this new routine. I feel like a different person. I've got more energy, more focus, more and everything. So yeah, so the mindset, I know it's a bit of a long-winded response, but it's definitely something that it's a non-negotiable. Yeah. And then it can come in many ways, through I love visualization and affirmations, for example. I do that every single day, all day, pretty much. As does my youngest daughter, actually. She just sent me a video. She said, I've uploaded this to an hour-long video and I've been listening to it 2-3 hours a day. I was like, girl, wow. I need to level up my game because you are way ahead of me. So I'm good if I do 15 minutes, it's just like so funny. So
that's awesome. But I learned from the best there.
Well, I've always had that idea about parenting is that I need to lead by example. So they'll have absolutely no excuse whatsoever to, and if I haven't, stepped up to in one or two areas that I've got, I can't blame them because they've just, children learn by what they see. So,
yeah. Which you mentioned about your why, that's something that you focus on with your clients. Can you tell us a little bit about your own why? Like, why is this important to you and what brought you to this point?
So I think as long as I can remember from a very early age, I wanted to run businesses. I mean, I went to a sort of like a highly academic, what we call a grammar school, because I'm obviously from the UK, when I was young, and it was one of those selective schools where they only took the top certain percent, and we were directed from those schools into academic professions. but not me. I think by the time I got to 18, I was like, this is so boring. This is just, and I don't think I consciously sat down and had a talk with my 18-year-old self and said, this is really boring. I just intuitively knew that
Yeah.
wasn't going to be my route. My father's very, very entrepreneurial, extremely successful. My mother would have just done anything for me to go off and be a doctor or something, but it wasn't my route. I wanted to be a business owner, and so I've always been ambitious, very self-motivated. I am very self-motivated, pretty hardworking, and I just think I say this a bit flippantly, but I think my career plan was travel around the world and live life as an exciting adventure. They didn't have that on any of the curriculums that I
No,
was.
it did not.
So that led me to Paris in 1989. I was 61 a couple of weeks ago, so I was in my early 20s then. And I actually worked for 4 years as an independent tour guide, because I'm fluent in French as well. And I fell in love with Paris, of course, and had an amazing, amazing time. So I did that for about 4 years. I'm passionate about history and art and culture and fashion and good food. And yeah, I mean, it just ticked all the boxes for me when I was that age. And then I moved forward, and I decided after 4 years it was enough, and I managed to persuade the bank to lend me a lot of money to buy my first restaurant, a tourist restaurant in the center of Paris. So we didn't have these kind of conversations, Julie, at the time. Why do I want to do this? I just kind of like went with my impulses and worked forward from there. But then my first daughter was born in 1991. And of course, that changes everything when you become a mother. I didn't know that was going to change everything to such a dramatic extent. And then things became very different, because I still had my restaurant at the time, but then suddenly realized that I didn't want to work evenings and weekends and bank holidays and all the rest of it, which is what hospitality is, right? Because my daughter was basically being looked after a nanny most of the time, and she didn't half recognize me most of the time. And it was awful for me. So that really, really changed. And then I started to really question about my choices. The years ensued. I sold my restaurant. I joined my now ex-partner in his fashion and tailoring business, which we built then to something pretty significant over 15 years. My son was born in 96, yes. And my youngest daughter, Ella, she was born in 2003, just after my 40th birthday, actually. So I was sort of like an older mum. But by that time, I think I was really starting to ask myself some existential questions, and I remember when I was really in my early 20s, this guy I'd known, who was a good friend, for many years, he'd given me this book called What They Don't Teach You in Harvard Business School by a guy called Mark McCormack. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I must have been about my youngest must have been about 2, so probably about 42. And I remember clearing out the garage one day, and I found this book, and that I had bought when I was in my 20s. And in the side, I had all these little notes about my dreams and goals and what I aspired to. And I was just like, oh my God, what happened?
Oh.
What happened? This, don't get me wrong, I had a very, very privileged life. We were living in the outskirts of Paris in a huge house with the grounds and holidays in Monte Carlo and designer wardrobe, it's private schools for the children. I mean, it was, but I had poverty of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to think, okay, so I want to do something for myself now, which is probably why I'm absolutely passionate about helping mothers do things for themselves as well.
Yeah.
And I started looking at options and, considering what I could do, because I didn't want to sacrifice my time with the children. Ella was still very young and my son's very sporty. So I was trying him to, tennis and soccer and all the rest of it, 10 times a week or something. So there was a lot on. And, but then I separated from their father, and it was very, very, very challenging. And suddenly the why became a lot bigger, because I became a single mother and sole provider.
Wow.
And the business that we had been running, it was around about the time that the banks crashed in 2008, 2009, and that ricocheted into Europe. And we put the key under the door of this business, and it was the end of the relationship as well. So it was a big tsunami all in one go. And so then I had to ask myself some really hard questions about, what I wanted to do. I didn't have any resources to invest in another bricks and mortar businesses like I'd done before. And then it was the why was like survival.
Yeah.
Literally, I had some savings that weren't going very far, and I had to like make a 180-degree turnaround. And I think that one of the greatest superpowers that we have is as women, or actually I'm gonna use a quote to illustrate it. If we did what we were capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. And I think it's one of my favorite quotes. And I just continued to astound myself. I was just like, I can figure this out. I can do this. I can do this. And I retrained as a stylist consultant first and foremost, because I'd had these 15 years in styling, consultancy, fashion, manufacturing, and bespoke tailoring. So I had a lot of experience, but very quickly realized that that was not going to be the financial vehicle that would provide enough for me and my family. And so through the recommendation of a friend, I added a beauty line, kind of like the French have a way of saying it, je suis allée en reculant. I went in going backwards, because I was just, I know nothing about this industry. And yeah, I want beautiful skincare for myself, but, how does this stuff work? And I had absolutely no idea. But I was open and looking, and I was like, I think I'm going to give this a shot, because some of my styling clients were asking me for recommendations, and I couldn't recommend anything with integrity. I tried everything. Nothing really worked. The cheapest to the most expensive, you name it. And I found a technology and a product that really brought results. And I was like, okay, I can recommend this with integrity. This is good. And people loved it. And they came back again and again and again and buying. And today, I have customers in over 20 countries around the world, and it's been an extraordinary adventure in that respect. But all the time, my why was my family. Provide for my family, be the example for my family. It's just everything for me. Everything. Oh, getting emotional. Anyway, so yeah, so that was the big why. Interestingly, though, once my youngest had gone to university 3 years ago, suddenly I was kind of done. Right. I put the children through private school, through my business, had a beautiful home, business is thriving. And even during COVID, it was really thriving because we have an online organization. So of course, all the girls that were normally working part-time were furloughed, and they just went full-time, and everything exploded. So we're doing well. So it took me 2 years to find a new why.
Wow.
Took me 2 years to find, I was like, why? I actually thought at one point, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna retire and just jog along and do bits and pieces. But I couldn't find a why. The children are all fine now. They're all independent. They're doing great. They kind of don't need me anymore. It's like, where's my role? And I think that for women as well, when they get to that point, there's just like, okay, I'm kind of like not needed now. What do I do now moving forward? Right. I know they call it like a midlife crisis for men, but I think women,
Yeah.
sort of they find that those pivotal moments where suddenly, they're not living, breathing, sleeping, eating for their for their family. Of course, the family's always there, but they get independent, and they're not so needy anymore. But I knew that I had to find one, because I'd done so much training with other people by then. My mission then was to find a new why. And actually, that 2 years of looking for the deep why, not just the bit, because I want to buy more shoes and bloody blow, but go on more holidays, right? Of course, we all want that as well, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a bit of retail therapy, but I think it was something that, why would I bother to go back, level up, be more disciplined, get back to work, learn new skills? Why would I be bothered? Why would I bother to do that? I'm fine. So then I was like, I owe it to myself to find my new why. I owe it to my children to show them that they have to continually refresh and renew and re-anchor themselves with their why. And ultimately, to live without purpose is not very fulfilling.
Yeah.
There's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he said, that man perishes because he doesn't have a purpose. And I was looking for a purpose. I was looking for that, where can I, why would I do this? And then the best why that I could come up with, finally, was I'm curious to see who I have to become in the process of multiplying my income by 10. I'm curious to see what it will make of me. What new habits, what new skills, what new disciplines, what new mindset, what new courage will I have to develop in order to grow my income tenfold? Because I was really curious to see what part of me I would have to let go of in order to become that person. Because as most of us know, you have to become the person before the results show up, right?
Right.
Sometimes people say, well, when I've got that, I'm going to do this. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to do that first. And then and the results will then show up. It's completely the other way around. So I had that deep understanding that I really, really had to level up in so many different ways. And that really only came probably about, where are we now, in May, about a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And since then, I've been on this very kind of steep growth and learning curve. And of course, there's lots of surprises, good ones and less good ones. And but it's been very, very interesting. Very interesting to go through, because it's a daily thing, and every day we start a new day. We're in a different point of attraction. We're in a different mindset. We have different things on our schedule, things that we like more or we like less, and different days of the week. Monday's a different mindset from a Sunday, and or a Friday afternoon. So just becoming really, really more in deeper self-awareness of who I am, who I need to become, and in order to level up and ultimately to walk the walk, so that I can look at people in the eye and say, I have done this. I've done the work on myself.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best gift we can give to the world. On a wider, more kind of philosophical scale. Ultimately, that's what we want when we look back. At the end of our lives, and we say, I gave it my all. Every day I try to show up as my best possible self. One of my mentors says to me, she says, "I'll meet you on the corner of excellence and outstanding."
Love that.
Right. So we try and do that, right? Do we always succeed? Nope. But that's really how I found my deep why. Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
what I hear in that is, what does my true potential look like?
Yes. That's a writer downer.
There you go.
Yes. I wonder how far I can go in the realization of my potential. I mean, do we ever get to a point where we reach our full potential? Probably not, but at least to maximize what we're, in any way that we possibly can. Definitely. Yeah, it's exciting.
It is. It is. So to that point, actually, what does success look like for you? Like where are you heading?
Well, part of that growth, once I decided to see who I needed to become, is I decided to leave the UK. I say my youngest daughter's like, I want you to go now, go and live your dream. I'm fine, right? So I was like, really, you don't need me anymore? I can't believe it. She's like, yes, in case you haven't looked, I am actually grown up. I have a bank account. I can drive a car. And
Oh, that's awesome.
it's just like, dang, and I actually, in a way, I was kind of putting it off because I could have gone earlier, So I have a business that's non-location dependent. Suddenly I have no ties. I'm single. I was like, okay. So I bought a map of the world, a physical one, right? And I got some pins and I started thinking, I love America, right? Absolutely love America. And I was like, right, I'm going to go to America. And then I was just like, oh, maybe that's a bit of a leap. And then I thought all I knew is that I wanted to be somewhere warmer in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to stay where I was, and I wanted a challenge, because all these challenges just make us grow, right? So I thought, right, well, how about I go back to France, but I'm going to go to the south of France this time because my two eldest live and work in Paris. And I thought, well, at least then that'll be fun. We'll be in the same country for the first time in a few years. And then I discovered that down here in Nice, there's a huge English-speaking business expat community. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit of an icing on the cake. So that was absolutely fantastic. And but I don't think I'm going to stay here. You know, I think that freedom for me is it's always about freedom. It's about freedom, freedom, freedom and joy, freedom and joy, freedom and joy, freedom and joy. And so I was thinking, right, you know what? I'm going to stay here for another few months, and then potentially I might go to America for a few months. I was looking at the map of America yesterday, thinking, San Diego, you know, so somewhere where the temperatures, you know, I'm very temperature driven, so I'm just like, I want to be somewhere where it's not too hot, not too cold, you know, it doesn't change too much over the year, you know, I'm super fussy, and so I thought, oh, that could be an interesting adventure. And then I was doing some due diligence. I have a limited company in the UK. It's like, oh, you know, can I go away that long? And then I suddenly realized that there's another country in the world that I could live in where the corporation tax is half of what I'm actually paying in the UK. I was like, well, why don't I go there? You know?
Yeah.
So I think really that's what it's all about for me is about having that freedom, that choice. You know, that's what we want is we want freedom. We want to be able to feel free that we can make the choices of what we want to do without wondering whether we can afford it or not.
Yeah.
All right, that really is what it's all about. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, to actually decide where I was going to come to the south of France, that took me a whole bunch of time. I mean, when you're faced with you can go anywhere in the world for as long as like, I'm just like, where do I
start?
start? Yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh my God, you know, this is just like, why can you? And I went back and forth and all these different kind of places. And I was like, but you know what, Bridget, go to Nice. It's a 2-hour flight. You're not a tree. If you don't like it, you can move.
Exactly.
So I sold everything, my car, property, everything. And I came here with 2 suitcases. And this is where I've been now since the beginning of March. Yes.
I love that.
So that's really what it's all about for me. It's about, I mean, everybody's different. Some people like to be in the same spot all their lives. But for me, I think that comes back to that original comment I meant about travel around the world and live life as an exciting adventure. It sounds like kind of like living out that career plan. I'm going to get them to recommend it as a university curriculum in the next semester. Yeah. And I'm very grateful. I think that's really, you know, I'm so thankful for being able to do that, to have that freedom. And then at any time, you know, if I decide, well, okay, enough's enough, I'm just going to, you know, hang up my boots and, you know, put my roots down somewhere, then I can do that too. But I'm very blessed. I'm really good health. I do take care of myself. I'm very energetic, even though I am 61. So my father's like that as well. He's just turned 95 last week, and he's still, you know, doing loads of stuff and runs his businesses and, you know, walks every day and all the rest of it, and very sharp in his mind. So that's very inspirational. So I was like, I've got plenty of time before I settle down. So yeah, that's where I am for the moment. Yeah, still living the adventure.
I love it. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Get really clear on what you want. Get really clear on what you want and reappraise it daily. So I have an exercise that I do every single day. I sit at my desk and I spend 15 minutes writing down the things I want to achieve. And I tweak that list every single day. So that keeps it fresh. It keeps it fresh in my mind. It keeps it fresh in my, you know, and you know, some things change, and you know, over time, things. Oh, actually, maybe that's not quite as important as it will be. And then some things just come up recurring. Look, I can actually show you. I've got it stuck to my desk here every day. I write it down. It's got a date at the top of it.
Oh, there you go.
And then I have a little prayer at the bottom to say, you know, thank you its realization. And yeah, so that's get clear on what you want. And if you don't know what you want, at least write a list of what you don't want, and that will give you, because once you have clarity of direction, you have a North Star, right? It's like getting into a car and you want to go somewhere from, you know, Maryland to New York, I don't know, wherever you want to go, right? You've got a sat nav, right? And you're going to put the address in there, right? You've got to know where you're going, right? Now, I'm not saying that you have to know exactly how to get there on every right turn, left turn, or whatever that might be. Of course you don't, but you have to have that North Star. And I think that North Star for me, what works well with women entrepreneurs is having a freedom number. So they'll say to me, I want to bring home net of tax 10,000 a month or more, or some, I'm working one lady, she said, listen, if I can bring in consistently 5,000 as a second income, that would be amazing for me. Right. So everybody has their own North Star, but we work always. So we start with that North Star and then we build the plan under it. Right. So what are you going to do today? And we work with lots of mind maps. We really brainstorm and we'll brain dump and everything. And gradually the plan will start together, just as you start when you're in the car and you're driving towards New York or wherever you're going, just like, oh no, okay, I can see how we're advancing on the map now, even though I had no clue when I first started off which way I was going to go, even at the end of the road, but when you have that North Star, you become so powerful and focused and of course we don't want it just for the sake of making the money. We want it because we want to give more to our families, give more to ourselves, contribute maybe more to things that are important to us, whether that be children or dogs or whatever it might be. We all want to make a difference, positive difference, right? But we have to have something to pinpoint our focus on. That's the most important thing. And it's okay to have a money goal, it really is. A lot of women, I find that sometimes you talk about that and they feel uncomfortable. They feel it's a bit sort of like compromises their values, and that's not why they do business. And I was just like, if you do business, it's impact and income.
Yeah.
It's got to be both, otherwise your business won't survive, right? And it is what it is. And so when you have that North Star, you become very, very powerful, and one of the few who actually do that. I mean, there are some people who are really successful and they say, oh, I never even thought about the money or blah, 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 blah. But I think as a general rule, again, through my years and years of experience, it's a useful thing to have as a goal. You can have other things as a North Star, it doesn't matter. I just find this one is actually quite useful.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of good with money for ourselves and for others. I just saw that Melinda French Gates is donating $1 billion to women's causes. I just read that just before I came in, on Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine newscast. I absolutely love what she's doing with Hello Sunshine, and I read the article about where the money's going to go and how it's going to be given and all the rest of it. And I was like, just like, dang, that's a life goal. That is to give $1 billion away, isn't it? You know what I mean? I just like, oh my God, it just be so amazing. I mean, I know, of course, the origin wasn't necessarily her, but we all do it in our own little way. We all want to have that thing of feeling that we make a difference for the upliftment of the planet. And even if we can't do it financially, we can do it psychologically or vibrationally and energetically. Be kind, be cheerful, work on your mindset to always be positive and have a smile for everyone, say a kind word. That doesn't cost anything, and mean it. Be sincere. People will know when you're not sincere. I think the secret to being successful in business, you've got to really love people. And if you don't love people, you've got to learn how to love people
or do something different.
But I think it's the secret of life. If you can really genuinely, unconditionally love people, you don't have to like them necessarily, but just to recognize them that they're on this planet alongside you, and love is better than hate and all the rest of it. Then actually it's quite a nice simple philosophy to work with, and I think it works in business. If people feel that I'm really genuine, whether they buy just a small product for me or I do a full coaching program, high end or whatever it might be, my absolute number one thing is their well-being, their joy, their clarity, their feeling good, and I will completely invest myself in that, bringing people into that level of higher vibration of of well-being, and that's the greatest gift, really. Yeah,
for sure. And that definitely comes through in everything you are, and just in our conversation together. But how can people find you? Like, where can they find you online if they're like, I need to get a hold of Bridget?
I am pretty findable. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and actually on my Instagram and my Facebook, I have a Linktree link with all my socials, my WhatsApp number, my email, and actually I have a discovery call link as well. So if anybody wants to jump on for half an hour chit chat with me, obviously there's no charge. Everybody's welcome as well.
Amazing. Amazing, Bridget. Thank you so much for being on today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I hope I've added some value. And look forward to staying in connection. You're doing some amazing work, Julie, and again, one of these, one of the leading forces in bringing our voices to a wider audience. And this collaboration, everybody has their own part to play in it, and certainly you're doing that. So really grateful.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Awesome. Yeah. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com, and I will see you on the next episode.